Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. Just to reiterate, this media availability is embargoed until Minister Loewen tables the bill. Without further ado, Minister Loewen.
Good morning, everyone. I'm here today to share some important proposed amendments that my ministry is putting forward for the Alberta's Wildlife Act. These changes are designed to ensure the continued responsible management of our province's wildlife and the ecosystems they inhabit. They reflect our commitment to sustainability, accessibility, and modernization, ensuring that our wildlife management practices remain effective for generations to come. Today, I'm happy to speak with you about Bill 41, the Wildlife Amendment Act, which will update and modernize our Wildlife Act. Alberta's Wildlife Act is central to protecting and conserving our landscapes, wildlife populations, and the practices of ethical hunting and trapping that are an integral part of this province's cultural heritage. As with many laws, some of the regulations in the Act have become outdated and no longer align with the needs of modern-day practices, technologies, and accessibility requirements. These amendments are not only about keeping up with the times, they're about making common-sense changes that support both wildlife protection and the people who depend on these resources. The proposed changes will simplify regulations, preserve fair chase practices, and ensure that our wildlife management practices are both sustainable and adaptable to new challenges and opportunities. One of the key goals of these amendments is to improve accessibility for hunters and trappers. For example, we're making changes to allow mobility-challenged hunters to participate more easily in hunting activities. By updating the definition of a vehicle used for hunting, we're ensuring that Albertans with disabilities can continue to enjoy this important cultural tradition while using mobility aids. We're also lowering the minimum draw weight for bows from 40 pounds to 35 pounds. This change will allow youth hunters and those of smaller stature to participate in bow hunting with greater ease. Recent innovations in archery technology mean that bows can now be more effective even at lower draw weights, reducing barriers for more Albertans. At the same time, we're bringing our regulations more in line with modern practices and technological advancements. As hunting and trapping continue to evolve, it's essential that Alberta's regulations do as well. That's why these proposed amendments include provisions for using electronic licenses and electronic tags for hunting and trapping activities. These changes not only recognize the role of technology in making wildlife management more efficient, but also align us with practices in other jurisdictions. Another key update is the introduction of clearer residency requirements to determine eligibility for resident hunters and trappers. This update will help ensure that Alberta's hunting and trapping resources are managed responsibly and effectively, preserving opportunities for local residents while maintaining fairness for everyone. The amendments will also support the humane management of wildlife by clarifying rules around hunting and trapping tools, as well as addressing the misuse, spoilage, or abandonment of harvested animal body parts. We want to ensure that when animals are harvested, they are done so ethically and that no part of the animal goes to waste. This is in line with our broader goals of respecting wildlife populations and ensuring they remain healthy and sustainable for future generations. The Wildlife Amendment Act will also improve public safety and wildlife protection by strengthening rules around the feeding and attracting of wildlife. The feeding of wildlife often leads to conflicts between humans and animals, which can be dangerous for both. By introducing stricter rules around this issue, we are promoting safer interactions between humans and wildlife while ensuring that our ecosystems remain balanced. Another key amendment we're proposing is the removal of the judicial order requirement for certain enforcement actions. Under the current regulations, Fish and Wildlife officers are required to seek judicial orders before taking certain enforcement actions, which can delay response times and hinder their ability to act quickly in the field. By removing this requirement, we are empowering officers to make more immediate decisions when it comes to addressing violations of the Wildlife Act. This change will improve the efficiency and effectiveness of enforcement efforts, allowing officers to respond swiftly to potential threats to wildlife populations, ecosystems, and public safety. Additionally, we're simplifying and clarifying the rules surrounding the transportation of injured wildlife. In some situations, wildlife officers or authorized individuals must transport sick or injured animals to rehabilitation centers or medical care. The proposed amendments will remove some of the existing red tape around this process, allowing for more flexibility and quicker responses when animals need urgent attention. In addition to these improvements, the Act will continue to support Alberta's overall wildlife management strategy. This strategy aims to keep our ecosystems diverse, healthy, and resilient, while also reducing conflicts between humans and wildlife. We're making these changes not only to keep pace with other jurisdictions, but also to stay ahead of emerging challenges in wildlife conservation. In closing, hunting and trapping are more than just recreational activities for many Albertans. They are deeply rooted in our social, cultural, and economic heritage. These activities provide thousands of Albertans with opportunities to put food on their table, spend time with friends and family, and in many cases support their livelihoods in rural communities. We're taking the opportunity to update and modernize regulations that have not kept pace with the world around us. These changes will ensure that we continue to manage our wildlife resources responsibly, make it easier for all Albertans to participate in hunting and trapping, and protect the long-term health of our ecosystems and wildlife populations. So thank you for your attention. I look forward to seeing how these changes will help Alberta continue to be a world leader in wildlife management and conservation. I'll now turn the mic over to Kelly Carter, CEO of the Alberta Wildlife Federation.
Thank you, Minister. The Alberta Wildlife Federation, which many of you might know as the Alberta Fish and Game Association, welcomes the proposed changes to the Wildlife Act. We recognize their importance in supporting a sustainable future for Alberta's wildlife. The inclusion of digital licenses and electronic tags is just one example of the changes that are made that reflect the adoption of modern technology in hunting practices. Regulated hunting is an integral part of Alberta's heritage, with over 70% of Albertans supporting it for both food and wildlife management purposes, reinforcing the need to maintain both the Act and regulations in alignment with best practices. Thank you for inviting us here today, and I'll pass it on to Gina Sherman with APOS.
On behalf of the Alberta Professional Outfitters Society, I want to express my appreciation for the Wildlife Act modernization going forward. It's a big change, and a lot of work has gone into bringing this to life, and we're thankful to the ministry for taking the lead on it.
Thank you. That concludes the formal presentation part of this announcement. We will now open the floor to any questions from media. Go ahead.
Yeah, Catherine Krakowski, Alberta Day. So can you paint a picture for me about what happens now if there's a dangerous animal at a town site due to an attractant? What are you able to do? What can you not do? And how will the ability to issue ministerial orders change things?
Yeah, so presently we have to work with the landowner and work with whoever is actually providing the attractant. This will allow us, give us more tools to be able to work and make sure that that people are aware of the dangers, but also make them aware that that we could take action if they're creating a situation that not only endangers themselves, but could endanger their neighbors too.
And there's been a lot of concern over some of the province's change to cougar hunting rules, and part of this is making it easier for hunters to hunt cougars only for meat and not having to preserve the skin. So how do you justify those changes, hunting cougars and black bear only for meat?
Well, you know, most of the hunting that happens in Alberta is actually for meat. And in the past, hunters were required to keep the hide of black bears and cougars, but some hunters choose to hunt those animals just for the meat. And now when a hunter shoots a moose or an elk or a deer, pardon me, they're not required to keep the hide, but they were required to keep the hide for cougars and black bears. But if we have somebody that wants to hunt those animals just for the meat, then I think they should be allowed to have that opportunity and not be forced to process a hide that they have no desire to keep.
Thank you. We'll keep it to one question, one follow-up. Jack, go ahead.
Jack Pro with the Canadian Press. I've got a bunch of questions. So some of these changes are like super specific, or they feel super specific to me. Like the one about boats, for example. Like the way that I read it in the thing that Alex sent me today was that amendment will allow for the use of a motorized, unanchored boat while discharging a weapon as long as the forward motion imported by the motor has ceased. I guess I'm curious why some of these changes are so specific, and maybe is that just what hunting is? We just have to have specifics like that.
Yeah, and some of that is to align with federal regulations. And with that one in particular, as it is right now, in order to discharge a firearm, the boat would have to be at anchor. So not only stopped, but have the anchor down and locked in. And this will allow the opportunity for just the boat to come to a stop, the motor's not running, and then we have that opportunity to discharge a firearm.
And then you mentioned like the transporting sick and injured animals and the red tape that's being cut around it. When you say red tape there, what is the red tape you're referring to?
Like currently, if in order to pick up an injured wildlife, then you need to have a permit to do that. But in order to get the permit, then you have to contact a Fish and Wildlife officer, and you have to go through that process. We think it's more humane to the animal to be able to be taken care of immediately, especially if that animal is an animal that's not going to cause a threat to the safety of the person that's picking it up.
Perfect. Thank you. We will now move on to the phone lines. Operator, can you put through the first caller?
Your first question comes from the line of Bill Kaufman from Post Media. Please go ahead.
Yes, hi, Minister Loewen. I'm just wondering if there's any update on the provinces speaking with stakeholders regarding the possibility of starting hunting on game ranches.
So that's a decision that's with the Minister of Ag and Irrigation, and so that's not within my department at all. So I'm not sure of that process at this point.
I understand that your family is still involved in the guiding and outfitting industry. And given the decisions you're making on liberalizing hunting and quotas for big game, do you see any kind of conflict of interest in that?
No, absolutely not, and the Ethics Commissioner feels the same with that. Just like any minister in government, there's certain things that I have to do in order to become a minister. Those have all been in a line with the Ethics Commissioner's office, and so there is no conflict of interest there.
Thank you. Operator, can we put through the next caller?
Your next question is from the line of Kevin Green from CTV News. Please go ahead.
Morning, Minister. In this morning's technical briefing, the section about cougar and bear hunting was referred to as amendments to create enhanced hunting opportunities. Does that, in my mind, that means that there will be more of those animals taken? Is that the case? Do you expect that this will create the opportunity for hunters to take more of those animals off of the landscape?
No, when it comes to this act changes, that all it does is allow that portion. All it does is allow the person to choose whether they want to hunt the animal for its hide or for its meat. Currently, they have to take the hide. This will reduce the burden of having to take the hide if they choose to hunt the animal for the meat.
But just to follow up, to be clear, this does not mean that more bears or more cougars will be available to be taken, to be called?
No, the quotas for cougars won't change, and the bear season won't change with this either.
Okay. Thank you. If there are no further, we'll come back to the floor for one more question, and this will be the last one. Go ahead.
I appreciate it. I have to determine which one of these I like. Okay, the amendment that gives yourself the power to have change regulations for feeding of wildlife, and you had mentioned in your introduction there stricter rules around it. Am I wrong in thinking that our whole advertising campaign of it's never okay to feed wildlife, is that not the case? I thought that was kind of a blanket rule of just don't do it.
Yeah, this will give us a little more strength and ability to intervene when necessary. So this again, the same rules still apply as far as standard rules about feeding wildlife. That it's not advised, of course, but this just gives us an opportunity to take action.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Well, that concludes today's embargo to media availability. Just to reiterate once again, all of this is under strict embargo until Minister Loewen tables the bill. Thank you all for joining us today, and I hope you have a great rest of your day.